Hello guys, I am Witold, and if you are looking to get some more information on the KTM 1290 Super Adventure in the S variant, then it may be the right spot, especially if you are still before making your final decision on whether to put your money on the table or not. And in this video I'll show you some points that I believe that may cause some of us skip this KTM in the S version at least. Some of those points are indeed an issue for me myself, and if I were to buy a new bike today, then they would make me think long and deep. And actually that's exactly what happened. And note that this video is a part of the full perspective, which usually consists of what we like and of what we don't like. And I've made a video on what I love about this bike and what I think some of you guys may also consider as reasons to buy it. So that video is a list of the best points about this bike, while this video presents what may not be that awesome only. This is not the judgment of the bike. You will do that yourselves based on those two perspectives. If you already have this motorcycle, please understand that nothing is perfect, and seeing and hearing about some characteristics, or actually perhaps even broken things, as I've discovered, please just don't get upset. This is for information purposes only, but in the end of the day, if anyone is about to exchange cash and get in debt to buy such a serious machine for so much money, they definitely need to try it first themselves. And I'm here to help you take a look at some areas that I feel you will have to make your peace with, or at least you should know about and you should pay attention to. Or you might conclude even now that those points don't matter to you, as they simply, for example, won't apply to your riding style or what you're looking for. This bike can have, for example, a heated passenger seat, but if you know you won't ride with a passenger, if it hadn't that heating, you wouldn't care at all, right? So it's always this way with all aspects, be warned. A lot of power can be great for those who enjoy the adrenaline, and not so great if you know that you will not be able to stop yourself from using it to its full potential, and makes it dangerous for you, and your wife will come and just you in your head every day. Let's go, but I feel that this explanation is very important in the video so that you get why this video is created. It's not the only perspective. The first point on this particular list is going to be subjective, but after riding Super Adventure in the R version first, which was supposed to be more off-road oriented than the S, which I'm now talking about, I had pretty high expectations as for the incredible stability and precision at very low speeds, and I was truly amazed by those characteristics that were there in the R version. But here, well, there weren't that much here. At least not to the point that they are present in the R. Super huge surprise, and no matter what I was choosing, it just wasn't going exactly where I wanted it to go, especially when riding at slow speeds between the cars, or just riding in circles at a parking lot, so maneuvering at low speeds. For undefined reasons, it felt like it lacked some stability and precision at those low speeds, and I had to be way more careful riding it than, for example, the R. And I believe that a part of that was that the seat is lower in the S, and so the position of the bike is different. You can raise it, I did that, not that much change, it was feeling better to me. The handlebar in both versions of this KTM is, I believe, the same, and it is nicely narrow comparing to some other motorcycles in the category. That actually was making the R, so not this one, even better in the city. Yeah, it was a fantastic city motorcycle for me. I raised that seat in the S, and I felt, yeah, I did feel better indeed, but still not as good as on the R. And damn it, this is, I think, having to remain a mystery. And one more thing that might have caused that feeling is the tires, perhaps. And I got the R pretty much straight from the factory with nicely round tires, while the S had around 6,000 kilometers on the clock. I've ridden quite a few motorcycles, like BMW GS bikes with boxer engine, in multiple stages of their lives, and they were always brilliant in terms of this sort of control and precision. So at this moment, based just on my time with those two specific units from KTM, the S and the R, for city riding, which I do the most in fact, I would probably skip the S and get the R. So at the same time, it's a reason to not get the S. This is understandably confusing, yet I cannot come up with any definite explanation on why the bike behaves this way. If you've got a good explanation for that, please do let us know in the comments. Maybe it's the wheels, maybe it's different geometry, maybe it's the tires, maybe it's suspension settings, maybe it's the height. It should be very interesting to investigate. At slightly higher speeds, I did actually feel that the S version was more eager to turn, and it was more willing to cooperate in the corners at higher speeds. So the question is, which behavior is more important to you? Slow speed maneuvers or high speed maneuvers? And I'll leave that to you guys. Now, the second reason may be something that owners tend to point out and complain about, and I've seen that in the comments on my videos about the R version already, and that's reliability issues. Well, I've experienced two things myself. The first bike, the R, was getting super wobbly at 150, 160 kilometers per hour, so highway speeds, and I could see how uneven the front rim, the front whole wheel was when it was turning at any kind of speed actually. I believe it was bent. On the other hand, but how could it be bent if the bike was straight from the factory, just had 200 kilometers on the clock and maybe just one person was riding it before me? Anyway, I've seen that with my own eyes. The second thing was a leak covering the bike's exhaust. Remember, 200 kilometers on the clock. KTM also died on me in traffic just like that. And you can see that in the video. Reliability of KTM seems to be questionable, and that may scare people off. It would scare me off. I would be afraid. I would be thinking about it. You may see that in the comments under this video as well, if our friends, owners, will be kind enough to share their stories, which I'm not encouraging them to do, but that's what you usually want to do, and it's useful. Remember that this is for educational purposes and hopefully also for KTM to be able to take action, since this feedback is available to them too, right here, public. And we all are having a common goal of riding better motorcycles and enjoying them more and more and having them as reliable as possible. Speaking of feedback, there is the fourth point that may actually be considered a deal breaker by myself, and the issue is real here, and I now have more proof of bad design on KTM's side. Not that I was looking for it, but I just was trying to figure it out along with you guys also. And I thought that maybe the R version was either just faulty when I was having it. It was maybe just faulty everywhere since someone assembled it on a Friday evening and wanted just to go home quickly. But now with this bike, with the S version, the issue is still there, and I had time to fully test it. I also saw a sales guy having issue with the same thing. And I know from you guys that you're also experiencing that. And hell yes, this is an indicator switch which doesn't properly work. KTM had a different set of switches before, and you can still see it in some of their bikes, like 1290 Super Duke GT, for example. That one works. This new one here in 1290 Super Adventures, both, it doesn't. It doesn't switch the indicators off if you just press it like that, especially if you do it quickly. First of all, it's not giving you feedback that you need, and second of all, well, again, it simply doesn't work. I tried all ways of clicking, and there is no rule on when it does work and when it doesn't. I tried pushing it slightly down, like you guys, some of you suggested, and nope, none of that works. You may still press it or push it down 5 times and it won't react, leaving the blinker on and misleading others on the freaking streets, which is pure danger. This is really a problem to me, seriously, and that's not acceptable. And again, I'm dead serious here, but I now know how to operate it. So if you press it, nothing will happen due to faulty design. But if you press it and hold it for a moment, it usually tends to work, because it's got time to actually register what's going on. Not always, but it should work. Is this how it should be? 100% no. But it explains why pushing it down would work for some riders, because it takes more time than just pressing it and releasing it. It's as simple as that, I think. You can see all of that in the video. I tested it at the end of my time with the bike. I wasn't even aware how much I rode with an indicator on when it should be off for a very, very long time, confusing others. I just noticed that in the video. To me, this is something that would bother me every freaking day, and I would be getting crazy, constantly checking the bike's dashboard to make sure that the blinkers are off when they should be off. I strongly believe that since others confirm that their bikes are affected by this issue too, KTM needs to freaking fix it, not only in the future motorcycles, but today in all bikes that are equipped with this design, as it doesn't work and puts you all guys as well in danger. And I'm saying this as a huge fan of the model of both S and R. I want it to work. I wish that it worked, so that's why I'm getting so much into it. Please be super careful, and now that I found something that might be temporary workaround, you know, pushing it for longer or down, as some of you say, keep it in your mind. I hope that this helps, and together we can get KTM to fix it, or at least bring back the previous working switches that they already have anyway. Okay, let's now move to the less serious stuff that can be fixed with ease, as is in the fifth point. And that's a pretty hard seat that is also quite wide in the front part. It is not a tragedy, as you might modify the seat or replace it with something aftermarket or modify it, but then I'm thinking that shouldn't it be the manufacturers that have all the means and resources, also financial, to invest in the best seats for their motorcycles? And instead, many of them force us to take things into our own hands and fix the job after they failed. The wide front part of the seat makes it harder to reach the ground, and this can be an issue for shorter riders. Beware and set some cash aside, as myself, after 40 minutes, my butt would be hurting over and over like crazy, and I was appreciating every break that I could take, and that's not good enough for me. And so I assume that for some of you guys that might not be good enough as well. If you like the seat, please go sit on the new Triumph Tiger 1200 and then report back with a comparison. Anyway, that's a easy fix. And the sixth reason on my list is my standard line. On a touring enduro or an adventure motorcycle or a sports enduro or an SUV motorcycle, I believe that the standard could just as well be a drive shaft instead of a chain being used to propel the rear wheel. This is such a more comfortable solution that it doesn't have any of the disadvantages of a chain basically, and also doesn't really bring any new disadvantages either. Yes, anything can break, but with chain you can be more than sure that it will fail at some point, while if you are lucky with a drive shaft, it might just as well not break. You won't have to touch anything ever, and many BMW riders can confirm that. Triumph riders as well. Both have developed and installed, I think, pretty perfect, or just not pretty perfect, perfect drive shafts in their motorcycles. You don't feel any side effects, they keep your bikes clean, you can off-road just the same way and free up your mind and free up any luggage space by not having to have always a can with a spray on you anywhere you go. And one more thing is that with KTM's chains in particular, we know that they like to stretch way too quickly and can cause all sorts of worrying sounds very early on. And I mean like 10,000 kilometers. I witnessed such a discussion at a dealership myself. That's a little bit worrying. It costs you time and costs you money, and hey, why bother if there are possibly better solutions? Probably it's not a deal breaker. One also workaround here is also offered by KTM in the form of an accessory, and that is an automatic lubrication system. I've had such a thing in one of my bikes in the past, and it can work and lets you forget for 3,000 to 5,000 kilometers, which is, I think, totally worth it. At least you don't have to spray the thing, but you still have to play with it, clean all that stuff, tension needs to be checked, and replacement problem is still there. Considering other advantages that this KTM offers, also in my other video, that others don't, to me it wouldn't be a deal breaker. Yes, even for me, a big shaft drive fan. But if I had a GS and this KTM in my garage and I was about to hit a 2,000 kilometer trip, I would probably be thinking about GS's drive shaft. That would be one of the reasons that could probably make me take that bike for this kind of trip. And the last, seventh point, it sort of connects with the reliability issue, but on also another level. Where I live, there aren't many KTM dealers. I actually had to take a 5-hour train trip to get to the only place in the whole country where they had the 1290 Super Adventure S that you're seeing in this video that was available for me to ride. The point is that you may actually need those dealers, as a regular mechanic won't usually even want to touch a KTM. And heck, even authorized dealers sometimes struggle, and there's not that many of those bikes out there, and so the mechanics usually work on a few brands at the same time, and they simply might not have as much experience. If it's different in your country, that's great. Here, this is the reality, so keep that in mind as well. Those things may matter at some point. And this applies to other brands too, of course, but they're usually a bit more popular, so you're more likely to get help if you need that. So this would conclude the list, and I really like the whole idea of these bikes. If I would exclude the indicators issue, it would be way better, and the advantages would likely be able to convince me to buy it Anyway, I value fun much more than some of the other things. This is my priority, to enjoy the feeling that a motorcycle is giving me. And I recommend you guys to test any bike, including this bike, before buying it, as we all have different bodies and we all react to things in a different way. However, I don't think we can react differently to an indicator switch that is not switching the indicators off. Please, if you haven't watched my video on what's so great about this bike, and there's a lot of great things about it, and so the reasons to buy it, please head there. The video is linked in the description, and there is also my full review of the R version linked so that you can see how that bike got me pumped when I was reading. I've never been so excited on a bike, I think, before. S1000XR, when you accelerate at higher revs, that is exciting, but still the KTM, I think, was winning. See you in the next video.